curiosity then versus self-protection? Because when we've experienced a lot of pain, the reflex is, I hate this. I'm going to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But on the other side of that, relinquishing self-protection is a level of curiosity. As you said, I wonder if it would be possible for this. I wonder if I could fill in the blank. I wonder if this relationship. I wonder if this opportunity. How do we cross the dividing line from self-protection into curiosity that leads us to take the very first step, which is so necessary?
I think we acknowledge that we're going to have to if we truly want to get better. It's unfortunate, right? That's not what I'd want to hear. It's not what I wanted to hear. But if we're truly going to get better, I talk to people a lot about it. It's kind of like when we're hurt, we have this drawbridge, and so we lift the drawbridge, and so no one gets in. And while that seems to be a really good idea and protective, what happens is that eventually our supplies run out, and eventually we begin to starve on the other side of that drawbridge. And so if we are starving, eventually we have to put the bridge down because it's just not sustainable. It makes sense in the moment, and if you're under attack, certainly have to lift that. But we can't do that long term. And so the recognition that if I want to get better to some degree, and that's not to say to be careless or reckless, but to some degree, I'm going to have to take a step and have some amount of risk if I really want to do this.
So in a way, what I heard you say is we will change when the pain of regret is greater than the pain of making a change.
Yeah.
You said, this isn't what I wanted to hear, which infers that you've had to wrangle with this. You're a therapist, but you're also a practitioner in this way. To the extent you're comfortable, take us into your backstory, because you said that, at least I heard you say that from a level of personal experience, and I'm very curious as to hear what happened in your own life.
Yeah. Well, I think I've always just wanted an easy solution and a quick fix. I think I've always been better at the vision and not what actually upholds the vision. And so I've always just wanted to say, well, if I will it ought to be. And so if I'm processing this and getting better, I ought to feel better. And while it's a wonderful thing to hope for, it just isn't really how it goes. And so for me, really my first experience with doing something like that was I just came from a very damaged and broken childhood where there was abuse and trauma and addiction and chaos. And I just willed myself to have a different life. I just said, I will do everything different. I will not be this person. And I think very naively, I just thought that saying it meant I wouldn't. And again, I really did mean it. I really did want to be different. But the problem was I didn't know anything different. And so wouldn't you know it, a couple years into adulthood, I started to just recreate the exact same life that I had come from. And again, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't really do the work to do it differently.
See, I think your life and what you just shared sort of serves as another case study, because you said, listen, I willed it. I wanted this to happen. And how many folks joined with us today are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they're saying, after all this compounding pain, I wanted to change. I wasn't doing anything intentionally to halt change in my life. I did everything I could, but in fact, I did all the right things, yet I continued to get the wrong results. I'd love to hear your take then, Jason, on the futility of willpower, the futility of self-help tropes, pop psychology, and why we actually need a deeper solution. Number one, I believe, to heal the broken spirit, like Scripture talks about, but things that will really incite change that lasts. What's your take on all of that? Big question, I know.
That is a big question. We need sustainability when it comes to change. And so a lot of the things you mentioned are key components of starting, and they're wonderful for that. But they do not keep it going. And so what keeps it going is lasting and it's truth. And if you're a faith person like I am, that is my faith. That is my relationship with God. Because at the heart of it, that's what this is all about. And so while the other stuff might be good kindling to kind of get that fire started, it will not sustain it. And so I think we have to be careful about easy answers and about quick solutions. As much as I want them and everybody else probably wants them, there aren't. And I would tell you that some of the reason there aren't is because the beauty of our life is found in those broken spaces. And I know that sounds like a really therapist thing to say, but as a person that's experienced that, we are going to have woundedness and brokenness in our lives, even if it wasn't in our childhood, and it's going to be ongoing. You know, when I worked through all this stuff from my childhood, I was starting to feel better. I met the love of my life, and then we immediately had problems getting pregnant. We had miscarriages and all these issues. And there was this big part of me that just said, you know, okay, well, I worked through the big thing, so I thought I was okay. And now I'm doing it again. And so I had to accept that probably how I defined life was a little different than how life was actually going to go.
Is there a level of, gosh, and I don't want to sound insensitive to anyone, but when we live from an idealistic paradigm, like inherently, the life we actually live isn't the life we would have ever chosen or dreamed of. Yeah, I know this is muddy water that I'm traipsing in, but I'd love to hear your take then about how you coach people to, in getting past their past, face reality as it is without being hindered by it should have been another way. Because that's the cry of many of our hearts. This shouldn't have happened, Jason. What do you do?
Says who? Who told you that? How did they know?
Say more.
Well, we all get our worldview and our idea from somewhere. And so where did you learn it wasn't supposed to be this way? And was that accurate information? And was it true for the person telling you that? A lot of times we repeat things we've heard, we repeat things that we've been told. And the challenge with that is sometimes it's inaccurate or it's outdated. And sometimes we have to look at these things and intentionally say, what is the truth about this? And the word should gets us in trouble. We can want for these things. We can say, I want it to be better. I want it to be easier. I wish it were. But saying it should be, that's dangerous, because with that are a bunch of expectations. And when our expectations are unmet, we're disappointed. And so we just have to be really careful about what it is that we expect and where that comes from.